Good morning, everybody. My name is Victor Hale, and I'm definitely glad to be back. um, it's been a while since I've been on this channel, hasn't it? And I want to open up with a couple of things about that. So, for starters, when it comes towards getting everything all up in wraps, there's been a lot that's been going on with my life in terms of school and, well, actually, video gaming in general. I've been broadening my aspects when it comes to all the stuff that I can do. And unfortunately, some of them includes TikTok. Now, I know what you're thinking. Am I selling out for TikTok? No, I am actually I'm actually in dire need of money for taxes for later today as well as this weekend. If you would like to donate, please do not hesitate. But if you can't or do not want to, then please do not do that. With that out of the way, let's begin. So today, as you can see right here, I will be showing off Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. However, I am going to show off only a portion of it for today because I want to discuss some major mechanics as well as the lore behind, well, Fire Emblem itself. The game runs on, well, you can probably tell. However, there's some neat, interesting things you can only find in the debug menu, and I'll be showing that off quite a lot, so get used to it. A lot of the information that I find is through Serenus Force, as well as BigKlingy's playthrough of both Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. So if you are familiar with those two, then feel free. Also, and without further ado, let's begin.
I want to explain that one tomorrow. Put it on.
So as you can see right here, Greil here and Ike are pretty much playing along in the forest. Well, apparently in the original setting, all three people, apparently, Lefron, Ike, as well as Grail were all essentially lords of Persis. You might remember the phrase the Duke of Persis. Well, essentially, that's the district where Ike's family would have lived in, apparently. And because of this, that's it's one of the only places from the original concept of Fire Emblem Path of Radiance to have, well, been brought back essentially. There also was another plot point where apparently the Herons who were massacred, there were supposed to be 100 Herons left. However, it's unknown what they were going to do to them, whether they were going to be allies, whether they were just going to be added to the story, etc. But yeah, if you need more information about it, you can find it on on the Serenus Forest website. Also, if you look more closely, you might see something strange. We were just talking to Ike, but Greil? That's because that's because I merely changed his model in class. He is essentially a hero class at the beginning. I decided to give him a pre-promote because in the aspect of Ike, even though he technically has a really good footing when it comes to being a lord, he doesn't get the access to Axis, which is what heroes eventually become. And Ike eventually becomes a hero in Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. So, that's one of the reasons why I decided to have him be a hero, was because you kind of start as him and you eventually grow as him. So, yeah. However, his portrait remains the same. It's a Lord Ike. Main reason is because I eventually want when he eventually becomes a lord in the future, his class will still be a hero. However, he'll get the access to Axis in the meantime, but everything will eventually smooth out in the canonical sense by chapter 17 and 18, which is unfortunately where Ike becomes a lord. Anyway, on to the next part. Hey, look, 2 Grails. The other reason I decided to replace Ike with Greil is because in the main game, apparently there is data for Greil having a support with Ike and Titania. And the other reason is because in the original draft, it's possible that Greil may not have died. He would have been charged for treason but not executed. And that's kind of the reason why I wanted him to stay along. In the original draft, because they were all lords and have a castle, they would have been invaded and essentially reprimanded, but they weren't to be killed until maybe the end of the story. So that's another reason why. Oh, look, the tutorial sucker himself. Yes, everybody, that's Boyd and Mist. You can see the relationship is starting off really special. By the way, I'm just going to say this right now. Spoiler alert for the end of the game. Unfortunately, if you played Fire Emblem Heroes, pretty much this entire story was spoiled. Anyway, which let's go into the next subject. Boyd and Mist. You see them teasing each other a little bit. Well, essentially, it kind of came out of the blue for most people. However, I'm one of the rare few who kind of could see the pairing between Mist and Boyd right from the beginning. Right there, Mist snarkism. You just missed it. Just a minute ago, he was out cold. A lot of the characters are snarky as hell, and I love it. And just at the right time, Boyd, you can be Ike's sparring partner. What? Me? I'm beginning to think it would be better if he sparred with someone closer to his own skill. I understand. Thanks for your help, Boyd. I don't know about this closer to skill business, but I'm ready. Yeah, you're ready to get screwed. All right, I'm ready for you. Let's go. And now let's go off into the main reason why I decided to do this. So, let's begin. Right there. You see that little menu up at the top screen right there? Well, this is the debug menu. You can only access it through cheat codes. So let's begin the necessary components. Game. See, in Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, there are different kinds of features that you can find via this debug menu. The game has several different aspects to it. Unit, game settings, tricky terrain, open roof, building, convoy, unit list, bond, log, and clear map. Clear map essentially does exactly what it says. It auto clears the map for you. Unit Ike is his player stats. The game stats are essentially the event points, which are the bonus EXP, funds, which are right here, which are the amount of money, and then if you add them all together, this is your total. Chapter 1, of course, is the map. Rank is basically the difficulty. The level up system is essentially random or fixed. If you choose random, then the stats are basically the way that you would gain them in Path of Radiance. However, if you chose fixed, then they would be dependent on bands and class, as well as enemies you face off in that level. There is a fixed amount that gets spread out through, and I believe it's like 3 different stats at the bonus stage. Of course, you know the amount of playthroughs. The reason why it's set to 16 is because of a feature that I enabled for this game, starting off right off the bat with extra, as well as the fact that I already beat the game twice. However, it's set to 16 so that you can have all the characters for the bonus level, or rather the trial maps. Essentially, you might know the trial maps from Fire Emblem, Blazing Sword, Binding Blade, Sword of Seals, etc. Tricky Terrain is interesting. It doesn't really do anything that I can think of. However, that's not the main point. Right here, the building is kind of interesting as well. When you see building, and it says building nothing as of right now. However, if, let's say, for example, there was a castle, it would say building castle or something like to that extent. Convoy essentially is, well, convoy. There's no convoy as of right now. You don't actually get that until chapter 7. Unit list, I'm not entirely too sure about that, but when you click on it, it doesn't really do anything. Bond does nothing either, but I assume it shows the bond between the supports. Log is also the same thing. I imagine in some way, form, or another, it was to basically log all the assembly data, or the really advanced coding. But anyway, hi.
I was in the car, so I had to mute my thing. My mum was shouting and arguing. So I had to turn my thing off.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Anyway.
My sister lost the sausages, apparently.
Huh?
My sister apparently lost the sausages.
Oh, I get you. But yeah, on to the next set of events. General doping. Well, actually, that's pretty interesting. It is very hilarious too, because hey, I'm doing some doping. I got all these steroids that are going to buff me up to fucking high stats, as you can see right here.
Why is the model different?
Huh?
Why is the model different? There's an actual sprite.
What's the level difference?
I said the little sprite compared to the actual model.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, actually, I'm not really sure, to be honest.
About spilling things. So if that makes sense, not my whole guy. It's just about spilling things.
I get you. But yeah, as you can see right here, general doping does pretty much standard usage. It essentially just gives the character you highlighted all of its max stats. I just wanted to show that off just for him because, well, nah. He's still gonna have like 32 health because, well, it wouldn't be fair to use an elixir or a vulnerary as of right now. And anyway, back to the unit. So, parameters. The parameters themselves essentially adjust the level, the EXP earned or starting, the HP stat, strength stat, magic stat, skill stat, speed stat, luck stat, defense stat, resistance, constitution, which is essentially the weight, move, which is essentially how much movement the character has, beast, I believe, is something related to the lagoos. More on that later. Hate is kind of interesting. I'm not so sure what that might be. It could be that it's something else entirely that wasn't really programmed, but it could be something related to maybe the berserk status or something else. BTL constitution is also interesting. I'm not entirely sure about that. However, bio is essentially biorhythm. In this game, biorhythm can adjust how well you can hit an opponent, how much of it is going to hurt, and the influence. It's essentially the atmosphere of this game. It is completely random, which is a very hated aspect of many Fire Emblem speed runners and players. And of course, weight is essentially varies. Weight can be the same as Constitution or lower or higher than. Well, actually, no, it can only be the same as or higher than Constitution. It depends. Constitution, I assume, is the body weight naturally, maybe the body mass index. The weight itself, of course, determines the factor of 1, shoving, and 2, smite. You might notice that when you click on a player, there are options that appear, and one of them is shove. In this game, you can push a player or an enemy, yes, you can do that, to push them 1 square away. This can set you up into get the fuck away from me. It can also set you up in, hey, get right next to me, dude, so that my friend can basically kill you. So yeah. Conditions, of course, are your standard conditions: poison, sleep, silence, shock, paralysis. Specific to this game, what does poison do? It essentially decreases your stat like that of a Pokemon. You lose health each turn, I believe. Sleep essentially puts you to sleep. You cannot use your weapons, you cannot move, you cannot do anything. What does silence do? It's pretty interesting. If, let's say, for example, a enemy on the other side has the highest S rank weapon ever, when you use the silence staff, they can and when you use the silence staff on that enemy, as well as give it some damage, he will unequip his weapon and use a vulnerary, because you can't equip a staff, but you can equip a light magic tome. And this is a way to steal the main weapon of an enemy. You can also use this to get what's known as the Venom Axe. Venom weapons essentially inflict poison on a lot of enemies. What does shock do? I believe that's basically just I believe that's something related to the a status condition where you can't move, but you can do other actions. Paralysis is a little bit of the same thing. I'm not sure what M Shield does. However, Torch is essentially the Fog of War. In the Fog of War chapters, there's going to be mist all around the frickin' area, and because of this, you need a torch to light up a certain area. If you have like 1, maybe 2, etc., I believe this just is the status of the torches being used. Now, onto the skills. See, the starting 2 stats are essentially what are known as innate stats or hidden skills. Hidden skills are essentially coded into a player to allow you to do commands. The shove command does this. So when I click on the player twice, there's items and weight. When you're next to a player who has less weight than you do, you can shove them. That a command will appear here. In later chapters, when Ike basically gets commander status, there will be an option for order and ally. These essentially guide ally units so you can command them too. The 2 skills that you saw earlier that are Japanese lettering, those skills are essentially those 2 things. The other one is 0, which is hero. It essentially this essentially allows Ike, Greil, and Mist. All of them have the hero class, essentially. Now, relatively speaking, Mist doesn't have a hero class. She gets Valkyrie in the future. But essentially, she can utilize a weapon known as Ragnall, which is a weapon specifically to Ike. Mist essentially gets the access to that weapon as well as Greil. This is This leads people to believe that maybe Greil was supposed to be involved with the story more often. But yeah, 92 is something else too, I believe, but not entirely too sure. Anyway, let's go. Let's move on. So, oh, wait a second. Actually, I think he needs 92. Okay. I'm gonna go back to the I'm gonna go back to the skills or whatever. So here we go. If we scroll down to 92. Oh, okay. So 92 is a skill known as Immortal. This skill essentially makes it so that Boyd and Greil here are essentially able to get killed, but they won't be removed from gameplay or the story. Immortal status, after all. It can only it's specific to this chapter though. So yeah. Keep that, and then just to test out how good this thing is, let's go into the different A, B, and C's. Now, okay, so first off, skill numbers 86, 87, and 88. Let's go over these skills. In this category, you have Sid EQA, Sid EQB, Sid EQC. The first one, A, is assigned to Rudolph. It essentially allows him to use Rolf's bow. The second one, B, is assigned to Valencia. It allows her to use Amity, which is her specialty weapon. And then C is assigned to Gifka, Timbarn, and Nysala. It essentially allows them to use the Laguz band. Now, what's the Laguz band? The Laguz band is essentially a held item that allows all the kings who are declared royalty to essentially utilize a band that keeps them in their animalistic state permanently. It is only to royalty though. You can attempt to get race in that kind of status so that he can actually utilize the Laguz band as well. Because technically he's Heroness royalty, so he could do the same thing as pretty much everyone else. Oh, and if you're wondering what kind of character Racing is, he's essentially a dancer, but much better. The funny thing is, a lot of the Herons actually have attack stats. This is reminiscent of the fact that there were supposed to be 100 Herons in that set. Anyway. Now on to the next three. I won't be going over all of them, but I will be going over some of the major ones, by the way. So don't worry. Now here's 84 and 85. The names of them are Sid, Try, A, and B. Now, what's Try? Well, it's actually a pretty big staple. You might remember in previous games the triangle attack, and you might remember in this game and in Radiant Dawn. Well, essentially, there are two groups of people that can learn the triangle attack. There's Elincia's group, which is Elincia, Tanith, and Marcia, who are Pegasus riders. They can each utilize a triangle attack. But how do they do this? Well, essentially, when you utilize a base conversation in this game, it unlocks it for them in this game. The reason why I think this actually makes sense that most people tend to believe is because they in the base conversations, they're looking through books on a mastery attack that they can all perform. They don't know it at this point. So it makes sense for them to be able to instantly get it in the next game in a story sense. In a gameplay stance, they just want it right off the bat. They just want a lot of people seem to want triangle attack right off the bat. But that's not the point. Anyway, the triangle attack is basically magical weapons. You can do this with close combat weapons, however, but they all have to be the exact same weapon. That's the killer. you have to be 2 spaces away or have movement so that each of them is a triangle. You have to do a triangle. It can be any triangle. However, it has to be an exact triangle. Anyway, the same goes for number B. Triangle attack B. Oscar, Boyd, and Rolf. The reason why this is actually a big thing is because Rolf is a strict bowman. Boyd, as a fighter, gets the ability to learn the usage of bows. Oscar is a paladin, essentially. He starts off as a lance knight, but eventually you can add an extra skill onto him. Canonically speaking, he's a bowman. Because of the fact that Kieran is essentially his rival, though, you would imagine Kieran being a axe knight because of the fact that, well, he's basically a guy who's willing to let his head spill with blood. I am not joking. It is in one of these conversations. Oh man, that is just amazing. But yeah. Now on to another one. Now this got the community fired up when they first found this. Mantle. Let me just assign the skill so you can see what the fuck it does. Mantle. Right here. Greatly decreases the damage done by most attacks. That is not the end of it. There is another character in this game with the mantle ability, or rather something else. Mantle essentially says, "Oh, you're going to damage me? Fuck you." In Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, there's a couple extra bonuses to it, but that's about it, though. But now it's time to actually remove the skill. So, yeah, and yes, you can do that. You can add and remove skills from this game. X does the job for that, though. All right. Now, vigilance. What the hell is vigilance? Well, this actually is kind of interesting. It's a skill given to only one character in the game. That would happen to be Ulki. Ulki essentially is the skill related to the dude's motherfucking ears. So, because of the fact that Ulki is the only one who can learn vigilance, this brought up some controversial spoilers. And I'm going to say this again. Spoilers. Vigilance is a skill that essentially allows the character to dodge really, really well. There's another skill similar to this, but it's specifically tied to Ulki's essentially his partner. They're both bird tribe Lagoos. In the Japanese version, however, Leiron or Sephiron could actually learn this. Now, why is this a potential spoiler? Well, it's quite simple. You're talking to a guy who starts off as a bishop. He looks like a human, right? Well, revealing that you have a bird tribe Lagoos ability is quite the spoiler when you consider Leiron is a heron. In the story, essentially, Leiron gave up his identity and became Sephiron, Duke of Persis. He essentially was a guy who really wanted to help the world from its catastrophe. However, because of a tragic event involving the herons, he became chaotic and became really, really pissed off. This essentially allowed for him to become a human-like person with wings. But wait a second. You don't see those wings. In Radiant Dawn, you actually do get to see them. Apparently, what happened was he had a pretty bestial relationship with a human named Altina, who was the Empress of Benyon. Because of this, when he gave birth to a child, he basically lost his heritage. He cannot sing Galdor anymore. and this led him on a downward spiral. From there, it was believed that people who inherit the powers of Lagoos, who are perfectly human, and they look like humans too, they essentially have really terrible lifestyles. Now, that brings into question two other people, Volk and Stefan. Well, actually, it's one person. But you might be wondering, who the hell is Volk? That is the Japanese name to Stefan. You might know him as the S-rank swordsman you get from the desert. Well, essentially what happened was Volk is essentially a branded, a type of human Lagoos who has the blood of a Lagoos, body of a human. You can see some of their Lagoos heritage show when they get older. They barely age in terms of their physical appearance. Because of this, you have Folk, who essentially only gets revealed in the next game to be one of the three warriors who conquers the quote unquote dark god. Folk is essentially the lion of the entire Lagoos. He was the original lion of all the Lagoos tribes. Now, this is the skill I was talking about, Insight. Insight is essentially specific to Uki's partner, or Tibon's eyes. You'll be hearing that a lot in lane game. What's 50 keys? This is an ability given only to Volk. Volke. Volk is essentially a thief. 50 keys is essentially, oh, you got $50. I'll open a lock. Oh, wait, you don't have 50 keys? Sorry, I'm not going to open that lock for you. So, yeah, that's about it, though. Ether. Now, this is where we get to the beauty. Okay, what's Ether? If you haven't played a single Fire Emblem game and never heard of Ether, I feel sorry for you. Ike's specific weapon, essentially, Ether, triggers Soul and Luna. It is essentially Ike's best weapon in this game. In terms of the model for Ike, however, when you attach this skill to Greil, essentially he gets the animation is split between the first and second hit. Soul essentially recovers HP and can be critical. But essentially, the amount of energy you get is based off of the damage you give to the opponent. The damage you give to the opponent is the amount of health you give. What's Luna? Well, hi, I have 28 defense. I have 28 resistance. Divide that by 3. You're fucked. Yeah, essentially, it divides the defense and resistance by 3 and causes you to essentially go bye-bye in the middle of an animation. And now for the coup de grace. Let's go on to something else, though. What's weapon level, you may ask? Weapon level is essentially the level of which you can get that weapon. Now, it says E right here. However, I'm going to give it D. As you know, the D. D essentially is a good skill because it's basically how the level you start off with when you're a typical axe person. You don't actually start off with E, you actually have D. You get to use steel axes and iron axes in this game. Now, why is it he's able to do axe and sword? Well, that's specific to class. Weapon level is essentially the level of which you can utilize a weapon. There are different classes of weapons. There's E, D, C, B, and A. C is generally speaking your long-range tomes, as well as your your specialty weapons. Let's go on to the example of a killer axe. Killer axe is a one-wage weapon, but what's so special about it? Well, hi, I have 50 crit. Times it by 3. You're fucked. I know I'm probably going to say that a lot, but you get the gist of it. It's essentially a specialty weapon that increases the amount of crit you have in a certain moment. But it's specific to weapons. There are other weapons that are killer, but yeah. B class is where you kind of get into the magical based weapons or spell swords, spell spears, spell axes, spell bows, spell tomes, and yeah, you get the gist of it. So essentially, it's a magical weapon. Apparently, in the game, there's a hidden bow, which is there's a hidden bow known as the Bright Bow, which is the basis for the Shining Bow from Fire Emblem Fates, a light magical bow, essentially. Now, you might be wondering, if he's a hero, what other weapons can he use? Well, I don't know why, but yes, he can learn tomes. Apparently, every character in this game, by default, can learn magic. And as a problem with this, the coding essentially allows you to have magical tomes. The problem is that the magical based is that only for mages, bishops, sages, etc. Magical based weapons can only be used by those guys. If you give a magical tome to say this guy right here, you are completely screwed. There is no animation that supports you utilizing a thunder tome, for example. And of course, these are actually blocked off because his class prohibits them absolutely. But yeah. Oh yeah. Here's another one. Support is based on who's in the game right now. Titania, Soren, Oscar, Leith, Alencia, Racing, and Ranulf. You can only get a sword, you can only get like a few of them so far. Because of this, you actually have to essentially you can only get like 3 ranks of a character and 2 of another. The support library supports 5 relationships. However, each one of the ranks is given a special stat. The pairings you get in this game are not always canonical. However, if let's say for example you get Mist as a good support with Boyd, then it'll lead into Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, where eventually they can get married. However, you don't need to do that in this game. The only one that is required from this game into the next one is essentially Soren and Ike. Soren and Ike are essentially the biggest pairing I cannot believe exists. But essentially what it is Soren met Ike years ago in Gallia because Ike was born in Gallia. That's right. The main character was born in a country full of beasts. Soren essentially is essentially an outcast to Laguz and Bjork. Bjork is essentially the name for human in this game. Because of the fact that Soren was branded, he was ostracized. Because of this, however, you have Soren dealing with the fact that he has to live on his own for quite some time. However, Ike was the only person who ever opened up to him. Now, Greil never actually met Ike, never met Soren until Soren joined the company. Ike was the only person who have met Soren back a long time ago. However, a key plot point that gets revealed in Chapter 7 is that Ike doesn't remember nearly anything of the past. This is because of the Duke of Persis. because of the fact that Sephiron essentially, because of the fact that Sephiron doesn't essentially get the time of day. Well, actually, no, it's not really that. It's actually because Ike witnessed the event of his parents' murder. However, Sephiron wanted to ease his pain by making him completely forget. This really took a toll on him in the worst voice acting for Ike ever. For whatever reason, in Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, when you get quote unquote Ike's memories, he sounds so fucking old. It's ridiculous. But yeah. Now we go on to the items. Now this is awesome. Why the hell does he have 80? That's basically just a cheat code to make it easier for me to utilize weapons that you can barely use in the game or one-time triggers. But anyway, what's Trainer? Well, Trainer is specific to the 2 units right in front of you. Ike, Greil, / Void. Trainer is essentially just a basic sword. So yeah. Now then, there's only one other thing that I would like to go over, and that would actually be event. What's the event flag? Well, the event flag is essentially something related to a mechanic involving the events that occur on the page. There are specific events that can only happen at a certain moment, and because of this, you have to scroll through each of them to check which ones are enabled in here. As you can see, there's quite a bit. In fact, triangle A is right there. Now here comes the mighty the mighty mess of this entire thing. I am going to look through here because there is quite a lot of themes that you may actually get the chance. So here's the thing. Anger, sadness, happy, comical, and meat. Comical is an unused theme. Now, why am I showing you this right now? Number 1, Ina. There are 4 different unused openings. Essentially 4. Well, actually, no, not openings. There are 4 themes in the debug menu that are not used in the game, and I'm going to show you them. Okay, here we go. Right here. Dark Knight, New Forest, Prague, Ina. This made a lot of people believe that Ina was essentially going to eventually become a 4th horseman instead of being an assisting person. You cannot find this theme, however, but the fact that there are 4 unique themes right here leads people to believe that there was going to be a unique theme for each of the 4 riders instead of one generic mighty foe. Seriously, why couldn't you say that theme for a mid-boss and have unique themes for each of the bosses? Come on, people! But yeah. Anyway. I will tell you that the glitch of you opening the sound menu essentially shows all of the musical stuff that plays right as you're playing. See all that? Now here, I told you this before. What does shove do? Here you go. Moves a guy a square away. In this situation, whoa, come on, what's all that about? You're wasting our time. Hey, what's the hold up? Let's get started already. I'm coming. Wait right there. Oh, wow. He didn't even listen. Yeah. You can do it. Boy's got nothing. Take him out. My God, the teasing. Oh, my God. He can't take it. Oh, yeah. Here's Ether. In Greil's model, the attack is split into both of the animations instead of all at once. In Ike's model, it does it all at once. So Sol and Luna do it at the exact same time. In Greil's model, you start with Sol, end with Luna. Just like how the animation was kind of supposed to be. This also leads into the fact that if there were more heroes in this game, you can imagine them automatically being able to learn the skill Ether. Because of this, it's led to believe that when Greil goes up against if Greil was still in the game, you could have one of them have Ether, and you can have the other one have Wrath and Resolve. Any speedrunner or Fire Emblem player will know exactly what I mean when I say that. All right, now then. So, before I begin, I am actually going to do something that I alluded to earlier. In this scenario, you can actually change the item that they are equipping or in the item section. But be warned, if you were to ever do this in real game time or whatever, you would essentially get fought because unless you equip it to this guy right here, Ike, then you would essentially have to deal with the fact that with every other character that does this, all of those, let's say the 80 out of 3 that are shown right here with Ike, if you change the item that is used, it'll go back to the actual default amount of items. But yeah. Anyway, I wanted to change it to Elixir because this is hard mode, and yeah. Now then, I'm actually going to do this because canonically speaking, Ike doesn't actually make it to his father right off the bat. You actually want him to come to you to show off something. Always take time to head into battle, even small ones. By the time you think you're in trouble, you're probably too late. Don't get into that situation. Now then, if you attack Greil, and if you somehow don't kill him, he will say, "Here I come," and come after you. Give it your all, copy of me. Yeah. Ether! But yeah, I'm sorry for the slow start, but however, I'm basically doing this to inform everybody about what the hell is going on here. I'm basically showing off one of the few things this game actually does really well. In this game, you can use the debug menu for a lot of stuff. However, I really hope this sound menu disappears really quickly, because if not, well, meh. By the way, did anyone catch how Mist basically toyed with his ass? I swear, like, if people didn't see that coming, I don't know why. I don't know what. Anyway, I'm gonna save it over here. So yeah. The battle begins. Now here's everyone in the map. Before we continue, I'm going to show you everybody that's shown off right here. Up there at the top, we have Oscar and Boyd. They're both brothers. Down at the bottom, we have Gatri and Shinnon. They are going to be the support that come to the rescue, essentially, in this chapter. Well, actually, no, not in this chapter. The next chapter after this one. You're going to find them later on. But yeah. Oh, yeah, and down towards the bottom right there, you can see Mist and I believe someone else. I forget who else. Oh, wait, Rolf. That's who. Rolf is essentially Oscar and Boyd's brother as well. However, I believe in Boyd's case, stepbrother. Anyway. Good morning, Ike. Today's your first day as a professional soldier, isn't it? Yeah, and I'm ready to go. But you is late. The others were suited up and ready at the break of dawn. Oh, God, that toughness on your son. Sorry, I'll get up earlier from now on. I'm talking with Titania right now. Wait outside until we're done. Yes, sir. Very well, Commander Greil. Shall we continue? You were telling me about some bandits that needed taken care of, weren't you? Correct. The request comes from a nearby village. According to our reports, the bandits are not all that strong. I think it best if I ride out and take a look. I plan on taking Oscar and Boyd along with me. Just the brothers? Go ahead, and add Ike to your team. Shinigatri and I can handle the other two jobs easily enough. Titania, I'm leaving Ike in your care. I'm trusting you to show him the ropes. Understood, Commander. Come on, Ike. Let's get your suit up. All right, my first job. Those of you who have played this game know exactly what I am humming. Anyway, Captain Titania, preparations are complete, and I'm ready to go. Impeccable timing. It's nice to know we can always count on you to be ready, Oscar. Don't forget about me. I'm ready for action. Is that so, Boyd? That's a surprise. Ha! Not today, it isn't. As of today, I am going to be the absolute model of perfection or stupidity. I need to set a good example for Ike. I'll take your word for it. Your first campaign at last. I know you've wanted this for a while. Are you nervous, Ike? I think I was more nervous last night. I could hardly sleep. This morning, I'm feeling pretty good. It's the calm before the storm. You should try to relax. You're not going to be out there alone. Yeah, you're right. Right, everyone? Let's go! Y'all know what the fuck I was singing there too, hopefully. This is the village of Chaldea. The bandits are few, but we mustn't get careless, Boyd. Our goal is to take out the bandit leader in front of the large bridge and then secure the building. Ike, listen up. All this stuff is old news to me, but I can give a rookie like you a few tips. First off, don't let yourself get worked up and jump in front of everyone. You'll just end up getting hurt. Don't try to do too much, Ike. When things get dangerous, you can and should rely on us. As long as you watch how the enemy moves carefully, you'll be fine. Think of this as a training mission. I'll do that. Oscar Boyd, thanks for your help. Don't mention it. Just sit back and watch how a professional handles things. Professional loser. Enough chit-chat, you three. We've got work to do. Okay, now this is something I want to show off too. Why the hell does Ike have 4 swords? Well, I mean, this isn't Zelda, but anyway, iron swords. So I'm going to go through this little bit of a glitch. In the North American release only, there's a glitch where if a tutorial doesn't appear or doesn't get shown, or lastly, if you cancel it, let's say, for example, you're playing easy mode or normal mode, you essentially have to you essentially get 4 swords right from the beginning, because anybody, this basically promotes not watching the tutorials. If you are a newbie at this game, then you don't need to watch the tutorials. They're very basic. Now then, I'm going to show off something that only I can really do in this sense because of the fact that he has 80 of nearly everything. There's actually a couple of action replay codes for the Japanese version that make it so everybody, and I mean everybody, gets 80 uses of every weapon. Seriously, why couldn't they transfer it over to here? I'm only kidding. But yeah, it would have made it a lot easier if everybody got 80 of everything. But nope, you have to transfer swords to Ike so that he can make every one of your items / weapons 80 of anything. Anyway, let's begin. So we're gonna go to items here. And we're going to change some of these swords. For starters, we don't need an iron sword. He's S-class at the start. I actually programmed this because he's a hero class, apparently Ike starts off as S-class for whatever stupid reason. But anyway, what's the S-rank weapon, you might ask? Well, it's quite simple. The answer is Veikati! Veikati is an S-ranked weapon which increases critical range and gives a +3 on certain skills. This game kind of introduced equipping a weapon to give you extra stats. In Fire Emblem Heroes, you might get a little bit out of this with some of the stuff that they actually show off. Now, what's the next one? Regal Sword. Now, I'm not going to give this to him right now. However, essentially, the Regal Sword is Ike's main weapon for the game. Aside from Ragnell, this game is given to him as his main weapon. In pre-release screenshots, apparently he had a rapier, as well as a longsword. However, in this game, the Regal Blade is essentially a long sword in its own right. Anyway, so what other weapon are we going to give him? Well, because of the fact that he gets a weapon that can pierce through both cavalry and armor units, we're going to give him the long sword. Reason why? The long sword essentially does well against horseback units. Well, actually, no. Okay, never mind that. Let's go back to items and give him the Armor Slayer. That's what it is. This one can pierce through armored units. You might actually find some of these units a little more frequent in the later chapters than in these ones. However, I'm giving him this right now because it's a rank D weapon. That's right. This right here is rank D. Now, I said before earlier that C is where the specialty weapons begin. However, these weapons are essentially a generic typing. They are specific to the type of blade that you have. They don't give any stat boosters. All they do is essentially increase the damage against these units. That's all they do. That's why they're rank D. Rank C can do more to your stats, though. Anyway, now then. Now, here's the other thing that I'm going to be showing off, too. What kind of axes would you like Ike to have? Well, for me personally, I'm going to give him a couple of really good axes. D is the type of stuff that you can only get for a certain type. However, because he's a D-ranked axe user, he can use the iron axe, the steel axe, and I believe the venom axe. Let's check it. Yep, it's a D-class weapon. Basic only does poison, and that's it. Alrighty, so Actually, here's another. Oh yeah, poleaxe. That's a D as well. Poleaxe is essentially the equivalent of a long sword, but for axis. I think this is a good balance because Venom gives a status condition. Vekati essentially um, gives you a bonus on certain stats. Right there, defense. It gives you +3 on defense. However, it also has the special ability to give you extra crit. Now, here's another characteristic of D ranked weapons. They offer no critical advantage. No critical advantage. No D weapon has critical advantage. Vegati and killer weapons do. That's the other thing you also got to realize. Venom Axis is really good for status conditions, and I'll be going over that because I want to show off what poison actually does in a good standard. However, Poleaxe is because in the next chapter there's going to be a couple of horseback units, and I want to give him a shot at it. Next thing though, canonically speaking, he actually has a canonically speaking, Boyd actually uses a poleaxe for whatever reason. So we're going to give him that by trading the iron axe that Titania has to be something else. So yeah, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. Now here's the other thing. While you can add skills to each of your units, the problem with it is, for whatever reason, the bonuses that you can't add weapons. I guess it's probably because you can get weapons eventually, and it's not really much use. Anyway, now here's another Oscar. Oscar is your main Lance Knight for the main game. Now, to be fair, because Titania is a pre-promote, she actually gets the ability to use lances as well. It's kind of simple that she has a C and lances and A in axis. I think the developers probably wanted her to be a lance knight at first, but then decided to make her an axe knight, and therefore they made her really strong in the axe department. Probably because she's most canonically utilizing axes. And boy, oh boy, yeah, this is a Jagan archetype for sure. Although, to be fair, she's really a Seth. But yeah. And now then, what should Ike do? Visit. No. I'm actually going to give that job to him because. Hey, you were the mercenaries, right? Thank you for coming. We've heard a lot about you. Here, take this weapon. We're farmers, not fighters. Maybe you'll get some use out of it. Da 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 da. Now, here's something that only Oscar can really do. Horseback units and people equipped with the Night Ring essentially get the ability to move after they utilize an action. So, put him right here. Only knights, well, only paladins, lance or whatever kind of knights like Oscar, and people equipped with the Night Ring can essentially utilize this. People with the Night Ring can move extra spaces after they've taken an action. So let's give Boyd some experience. Now then, what should Titania do? I vote this. Take on this guy. Because even though it's a heavier weapon, she kicks ass. I kid you not, in one playthrough, I actually got to see Titania crit a motherfucker on the first level. It is amazing. However, like I said before, there's no critical advantage that these weapons can give. However, that doesn't mean the stats can't say otherwise. But now then, let's put Titania right here, though. And here we go. Now, I would want to show off some of the stuff that you can do right here. However, let's finish this motherfucker off. Ike, you're right here. Let's show off that Venom axe. Did you see that purple mist that appeared? That purple mist is essentially the poison effect. If he had survived that round, then essentially he would have been poisoned all the way down to 0. But not in terms of, well, yeah. But yeah. What's going on here? Is that some sort of army? Pah! A bunch of mercenaries looking for the next meal. The villagers must have hired them. Listen up, lads. Hurt them and hurt them bad. We let this bunch live, and we'll have hordes of hired swords hounding us the rest of our days. It's those fool villagers. They think they can buy a bunch of cell swords to chase us away. It ain't gonna work out how they wanted. All they get for their trouble is a bunch of ruined houses. Tear it down, boys. That'll teach them. Yes, bandits have the power to do that. Da-da, da, da-da. As you can see right there, this is why swordsmen are better at fighting again than axemen. But yeah. By the way, if you're wondering why the hell that weapon he's carrying is this other axe that's not really shown off or whatever, it's because Greil essentially is programmed to Greil is essentially programmed to have only one axe, and that would be Irvin in the later chapters. Thank you for the experience, lads! Looks like everybody's lining up to get killed. Ether with an axe. And like I said before, the animation is split between Soul on the first, Luna on the second. Unlike Ike, where it basically has both of them activate at the same fucking time, so to speak. Now then, where the fuck should I go? Oh yeah, right over here. Over here, you can get a Seraph Rope. It's essentially an item that increases HP. Oh yeah, here's something else you can actually do with the debug menu. Aside from general doping, which is what I'm going to do to him, if you go to parameters, you can actually adjust the HP that the character has. However, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to max stat him, but I'm not going to be that stupid. Also, I don't know about you, but I feel like at this point, Boyd should actually be a C class. Reason why is because, for whatever reason, the developers put him at a D for dunce. However, at this point, if he has done any sort of training and is ready to take on these guys, he would probably be a C class, not a D class. Let's add a support, though. Now, this is where we kind of get into it. You can't actually make all of these 8. No joke. You can actually do this. Only in the debug menu. Get an A out of everybody. It's amazing. It's basically because. Quick moment. Okay, sorry about that. I got a phone call. Anyway, now back to the matter at hand. All right. So, as I did with Ike, I'm going to give a general doping. However, I am not going to give them. I'm not going to raise their HP. That would just be outright fucking cheating. Anyway, there is a couple of things I do want to address. Number one, his skills. I gave every unit available I gave each and every unit the ability to have 50 instead of fucking 20. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking about that, but yeah. Okay, so how do we begin? Well, unfortunately, he can't do anything because he's not pre-promoted yet, so we can't use a miracle skill for lack of a better term. However, he can use some other really good techniques. If you know Fire Emblem Heroes, though, you know how fucking good Vantage is. Now, let's see if I can find the other skill. How about Savior? Yeah, that would be good. Savior, Resolve, and Wrath. For all the pre-promotes, I'm basically going to give him Wrath Resolve all the fucking time. Now then. Oof. Ooh, that's not good. Well, that sucks. That sucks. Yep, I put too much in there, didn't I? Fuck. Oh well. That's what you get for messing around with the game too much. But anyway, yeah, so that's kind of the basic perks of utilizing the debug menu. I just kind of want to show off the really good benefits of it, as well as to show you some idea, as well as to talk about some ideas relating to Fire Emblem that y'all may actually enjoy. Now, I'm definitely cutting this short. However, I will be streaming later today, so no worries about that. You'll definitely be getting a lot. You'll be definitely be getting a full playthrough eventually. I eventually want to utilize this as a way to make videos from now on, because by utilizing it as a stream, I can basically make videos on the fly without having to upload a video beforehand, which is what YouTube does for making videos. But yeah, also I should note that today is April 5th. And 15 days from now is April 20th. 420, everybody! But here's the killer part. The release date of Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is April 20th, 2005. 420, 2005, everybody! Oh my god, that is just amazing. But yeah, anyway. So I'm going to close on that note. And I'm also going to check things out on my end with some other stuff and see how many people eventually like this or want to get interested. If y'all want to check out this stream, if y'all want to see the bonuses of whatever is going to be down in store for everybody, feel free to comment if you want to see this kind of content again. I'm very open to criticism as well as how I should handle things. So I'm waiting for anybody who wants to try this out. So if anyone wants to continue the way that I've been doing this so far, feel free. I eventually want to get some big YouTubers on here so that we can do a collab course. So yeah. Anyway. But yeah. This is Victor Hale. Hope everybody's having fun, and I'll catch you guys later.